Human Geography of China and Mongolia. Dynasties, leadership is passed down from father to son usually. Every once in a while they were forced to sneak in a girl in there. That's the river, 5,000 years old. China was one of the earliest civilizations on the planet. The mandate of heaven. Now what the mandate of heaven is, if we take a look at this, the people believe the new dynasty has God's approval. So you have the mandate of heaven. When you grow weaker and bad things happen, like floods or you're invaded, the people believe the dynasty has lost God's approval. You must be overthrown. The new dynasty restores peace and order, and now they have the mandate of heaven, which is a really good excuse to overthrow somebody. Shah dynasty is probably not real, but it may have domesticated silk. The Shang dynasty, this one we know for sure, farming society that's going to be based on land and property, king on top, and aristocrats, those are the landed warriors, pretty much like the knights in Europe. That is pronounced Zhou. That is the longest running dynasty, first used by the Shang, now used by the Zhou to explain why they took over. Under their rule, trade grew, culture spread, iron tools. There's a huge list: crossbows, ox-drawn plows, horseback, stirrups, paper. We can just keep going. These people did almost everything first, and one of these people is this guy. Maybe you've heard about Confucius before, but what do you know now? Did you watch this video? Question number 1. Tell me everything you know about Confucius, and if you know nothing about Confucius, tell me everything the book knows about Confucius. At the same time, a conflicting religion, Confucianism is not a religion but a philosophy known as Taoism. Did you watch question 2? True or false? Taoism is still practiced in China today. Qin dynasty, and this is where the word China comes from. That's Qin Shi Huangdi, an early version of Hitler, I guess. Now, the Great Wall of China existed in spots. He put a tremendous amount of work to connect them, and if you crossed him, you ended up being part of the wall. He also created this terracotta army to protect him in the afterlife. They will be replaced by the Han. Now, we talked about the Han last year a little bit in 8th grade, predominantly that guy and their treasure fleets and how they were far superior of what was going on in Europe at the time. Now, we jump all the way up into the 1900s, and China has gone from being the strongest power to being controlled by numerous European powers. You see British, France, German, Japan, not European, and Russia have divided it up, spheres of influence. This would be a racist cartoon from the period of the time, showing how they are dividing up China. Now, your book starts with the Manchuria, China today from 1644. I'm not sure we would consider that today, but this guy, Sun Yat-sen, he will overthrow the last dynasty. The 3 principles of the people. We kind of sum those up into nationalism, we are a people, democracy, crazy idea, and the livelihood of the people, or socialism, that we are all responsible to take care of each other. He was replaced by this dude, who is Chiang Kai-shek, and Chiang is going to get into a fight with this guy, Mao Zedong. The farmers will support Mao, and you will then have a communist government established in China. Now, the Great Leap Forward, the idea was to replace small farms with large government farms as part of this whole economic and social change. What happened was a tremendous amount of starvation. And it wasn't just the Great Leap Forward's fault. There were droughts. Colonialism had destroyed the agricultural and transport system that they had previously. Infrastructure had been destroyed by British, Germans, Japanese. World War II had just ended. And then we jump ahead into the 1980s. Deng Xiaoping, economic reform. And economic reform is going to grow out of this thing. Did you watch question 4? 4? I thought it was 3. Did I miss a question? Do I have to go back and watch more of the video? Dang it. Question 4. What became the symbol of the protest in Tiananmen Square? China today. So here was the deal. You can see the gross domestic product shooting up. After the crackdown, the unspoken agreement the government made with the people is, you stop protesting and we will open up our economy and you can buy things like Gucci. When Mao took over, there's Shang, he fled to the island of Taiwan. They both claim to be the sole ruler of all of China since. It's just that the communist version, who's not very communist anymore, has control over a whole lot more land. Mongolia. By the way, those are yurts. State symbol, that is Mongolian writing. I got no idea how they do that. Those will join the Han. These were nomadic people. Genghis Khan and his descendants will have the largest empire in history when you're looking at square miles. They were a nomadic herder people, very, very effective with fighting from horseback. Did you watch question 3? Question 3, is this guy not doing these questions in order? How am I supposed to know when I can stop watching the video? Question 3, who is the most famous Mongol leader of all time? They will be part of China until the fall of the last dynasty. They will become communist from 24 to 91, and now we have a democratic constitution in 92. The book then talks about the population patterns. The Han Chinese make up 92% of the 1.3 billion people. The darker the color, the more Han there are, the more homogeneous. There are about 55 other ethnic groups. One, Tibet, they were taken over in 59. Maybe you've heard of the Dalai Lama. They do not necessarily stay part of China. Another, even more current, are the Uyghurs. Have you watched question 27? Yeah, don't even bother. Uyghur is spelled U-I-G-H-U-R. Give me your version. How would you spell it phonetically? They are a minority Muslim population. You can see where most of the people live. The Uyghurs are going to be way out west in a very low population density area. New ag communities are going to be built. The new construction will start up after the agreement following the Tiananmen Square protests. The one-child policy, they don't kill you if you have more than one child, but you can see the effect that it had on the birth rate. There were financial and economic penalties. They have now switched to a two-child policy. Literacy rates, those are all different regions in China. You can see that the urban areas, way at the top, very, very literate. As you move into the rural areas, they're living pretty much like they did a long time ago. Mandarin is the most commonly spoken language, 873 million people, that's a fifth of the planet's population. Ideograms, those are not alphabet, they are not phonetic, they are symbols. And you have to know about 10,000 of them to read a newspaper. Socialized medicine, people are living longer. Religion, really downplayed under the communist rule. That whole red is non-religious. Muslims, Christians, lots of other places. The big yellow spot, that's Tibet and Buddhism. And speaking of Buddhism, the arts, just like Japan, when we talked about that, focusing on nature. If we jump ahead, this is modern art. And another piece of modern art you can thank the Chinese for. Did you watch Bonus? Share your latest TikTok that you've made with me, and we can watch it in class. Bonus. That is traditional Mongolian art. And that is a much more modern. Again, the tents are known as yurts. Here's what it looks like inside of one of those yurts. Did you watch question 6? 6? Now he's just messing with us. Yes or no? Either answer is acceptable. Would you like to spend the night in a yurt? Family and status of women. Traditionally, patriarchy has been the focus. The men are in charge. communism divided the families up and sort of broke apart those major families. You have this rural-urban split where the rural are still living the way they were forever. The women opportunities are improving, but low status has pretty much led to neglect and death of female children, especially in the one-child policy. That small type says women have traditionally held a low position in the communist era. Rural males, though, as they move to the city, that leaves the girls being the only ones back on the farm, and the parents need to take care of them because they will need them to support them when they hit old age. So it has kind of improved their status in a roundabout sort of twisted way. 1/3 agricultural work. Only 8% of the land is arable, meaning you can grow stuff on it, but they feed 19% of the world. There's a commune or a government farm. 80s, we're going to switch back to the family farm. Port Wuhan, their waterways, huge important routes for transportation of goods to seaports. Maybe you've heard of places like Shanghai. You can see the U.S. exports and U.S. imports from China. We are very much tied together. Hong Kong, that is a special economic zone. It is open to global commerce, unlike the rest of China. There are democratic protests from going on in China. Mongolian herding, we'll look in section 3. As the environment changes, it becomes more and more difficult to maintain this traditional lifestyle. Did you watch bonus 2? Write down the incorrect order that I used to number the questions as you went through the video. And now we have come to the end.